Organic molecules are really good molecules for our cells to store energy in. So if we talk a little bit more about that, just first off, organic molecules by definition are going to contain some carbon and some hydrogen, but then they're also going to have a lot of other elements in there many times as well. So we could certainly have oxygen, nitrogen, some phosphorus, you name it. But the basics of it is that there's going to be some carbon and also some hydrogen. So when we have that, if we just draw a simple organic molecule here, what we're going to find is that these bonds, especially the ones between the hydrogen and the carbon, these bonds are going to be able to store lots of energy. So we can store lots of energy in the carbon to hydrogen bonds. And what that ultimately means is that the greater the amount of hydrogen, generally the greater the amount of energy that you can store in that molecule. So if we think about some of the molecules that we've already gone through as far as talking about the structure of them, some of them had a whole lot of hydrogen packed on there. So if we just mention some of the different molecules that we discussed previously, we did have carbohydrates. There were different types of carbohydrates. Some were certainly bigger than others. Those are going to have lots of carbon to hydrogen bonds. We had fatty acids. Fatty acids tend to have a greater proportion of hydrogen in there compared to what we have with carbohydrates. So we would rank fatty acids above carbohydrates when we're talking about the amount of energy that's stored inside of a molecule. If we talk about others, triglycerides are made up of 3 fatty acids joined together. They're on top of a glycerol backbone. And so triglycerides, again in this group of 3, they're going to have even more energy stored inside of them. So again, the key here is that the greater the amount of hydrogen, generally we're going to have more of these carbon to hydrogen bonds. And as this amount goes up, then we can say that the amount of energy that's actually stored inside of that molecule is going to be even greater. So these types of molecules here, we tend to think of them as food sources: carbohydrates, fatty acids, and triglycerides. But one of the reasons why they're such great food sources is because there's so much energy stored in them. And not only that, but these are going to be very stable forms of stored energy. So we can store energy in these for long periods of time. And that's different from the ATP, because when we talk about ATP is really for short-term energy storage. So these types of molecules, these various organic molecules that we tend to think of as food sources, they're really good at long-term energy storage.